Fine. So, hello everybody. Thanks for joining for this presentation. I'm used to presenting my own work. This is almost the first time that I'm presenting someone else's, not someone else's work. Yes, someone else's work. School, and the main parts of this talk are taken out of this book called the Sudbury Valley School Experience. So I might be reading a part of the book in the middle of the session if needs be. I hope it goes well. So, and the title is "A Child is a Person." The first time that I read it, it felt very obvious to me. But then the more that I read on the book and talked to people, I felt that maybe it's not that obvious. So let's go and see why. So in 1967, a group of families living in Greater Framingham area started to search wide and far all over the country to find a school that meets their criteria for the educational environment they were searching for their kids, and they couldn't find any. So they felt that they had to do whatever it takes to provide the kind of environment they wish for their children, and that's why they set up Sudbury Valley School themselves. But what did they want exactly for their kids? So the basis of all their ideas and hopes and wishes was very simple sentence, but apparently very revolutionary, that a child is a person worthy of full respect as a human being. What do you think about it? Who agrees? Three people. Okay.
I don't know whether I agree.
Okay. That was a hand raise for a question, or?
What distinction do we make between a person and a human being? I think a child is a human being, okay?
Okay. Well, some people think that a child is a human being to be. So they will be a human being when they are 80 and over. And we are training these little creatures so that they become a person when they grow up. But they are not still a full person now. They're too little for them. So let's go ahead. This sentence, if we agree with, it has consequences. What are the consequences? First of all, and the most important one, is that the child's agenda for its own life is as important as anyone else's agenda: family, friends, school, teachers, community, city, government, whoever. In the school, they wanted for their children, they wanted the inner needs of the children have to be given priority in their education at every moment. All the children's activities would have to be launched on their own initiative. So no externally imposed curriculum, no arbitrary requirements to tell them what to do with themselves and with their life. The school had to be a nurturing environment, and the children needed to choose what to do and schedule their time accordingly. And there was a very individualistic approach to time. So no bells, no terms, no grades, no freshmen, senior, junior, preschoolers, graduate, postgraduates, slow learners, fast learners, and so on. I would like to read a part of the book from one of the graduates of the school, who describes a typical year at Sudbury. Even after reading and hearing about the school, and often ever after visiting, many people still wonder and ask what a typical day is like at the school. both for students and for staff. It often comes as a surprise that we have so much trouble responding to such a question. Our problem is twofold. First, people at the school are so different from each other that no two of them ever do the same thing, at least not for long. Second, there is such total freedom to use time that each person often varies his activities from day to day, or week to week, or month to month. The variety is truly amazing until you realize that in the world outside of a school, chances are that any group of people not pre-selected will show just as many differences. At Sudbury Valley, we see just about everything. One person will settle into a perfectly predictable pattern for months on end, always doing the same thing in the same sequence at the same times, and then suddenly change to another predictable pattern. Another person will, at totally unpredictable times, be doing something else each time. Another person will go on a series of short-term beings, a few intensive weeks or months of this, followed by a few intensive weeks or months of that. Some people play all day. Some people cook all day. Some people do a little of each these things according to some schedule they have for themselves. Some come early and leave early. Some come late and leave late. One week, you are likely to find many people at school by opening time and a bustling school soon after. The next week, the school may be quiet until mid-morning. Time assumes a different aspect at Sudbury Valley. Here, there are no bells, no periods, no terms, no grades, no freshmen, no sophomores, no juniors, no seniors, no belong to each, no preschoolers, no postgraduates. Time belongs to each student in a very personal sense. Each student learns to understand and work with his own unique internal rhythm, pace, and speed. No one is a fast learner. No one is a slow learner. All have in common the quest for a personal identity that is whole and individual, and that, once found, makes all reference to time seem trivial. Sorry if I didn't read it properly. So it was the first consequences of believing that a child is a person. The second one is personal respect. So in the school they wanted for the children, they wanted exactly equal respect for all members of the community and for their ideas and hopes. And they wanted to give everyone at school, without any exception, a full and equal voice in running the school. So how the school works is that exactly any decision which is made for the school, recruitment, finances, how to use different parts of the school, what to buy for the school, how do we change the activities, how do we change the rules of the school. All of these are made, all these decisions are made in the school meeting, and exactly every child or adult in the school from the age of 4 to whatever they are there have equal voice in decision making, which is actually the concept of democracy based on which the school is run. And the third characteristic of the school, which is very important for them, is the recognition of the place of parents in the education of their children. Although other schools, the conventional ones, usually don't want parents to intervene because they think they are a noise in the system and annoying. They were looking and say, well, we are parents for setting up the school, so we cannot say that parents don't have any role and they should stay away from what we do at the school. So they include them in their community. All in all, they wanted an environment which combines absolute respect for self with a deep sense of community. And this thing, which was their dream in 1968, is now the reality of the school with more than 50 years of experience. So I suggest that before I continue, let's go have a look at the school website. How do they present themselves? In the vibrant community at Sudbury Valley, students from preschool to high school age explore the world freely at their own pace and in their own unique ways. They are responsible for designing their path to education. This is very controversial aspect of the school, that the staff and the founders of the school do not take the responsibility of the education of the child. They truly believe that it is the child's responsibility to educate themselves. And they don't intervene because they think if they intervene, they are actually interrupting their natural growth. So they are there to respond to support whenever they are asked. They usually have open houses where you can go and talk to the staff, to the children, to the parents, and explore the school and see what happens there. So there are lots of blog posts. I'm not going to them. This is one of the alumni, one of the graduates of the school, who said the full meaning of the school's philosophy didn't really come to me until I entered adult life, when I found an area that I was interested in. My own drive, my own motivation was applied to the area that I wanted to get into. And then here you have the admission, the theory, practice, into the world blog, which includes very interesting and informative short or long articles about the school and their experience, the books they have published, their essays, and the questions. So admission is also interesting. So the admission is open all over the year unless they are full. And the school has a policy of open admission, accepting all applications who have the capacity for full participation in the school's program as self-directed autonomous members of the school's community. Applicants must be at least 4 years old. And then how does it work? You go, if you are interested, you will make an appointment and you go for an interview to get acquainted with the principals of the school and see if you are interested. If yes, then you would go, the kid will go to the school and spend 1 week there to test it really in practice. And after that week, if they are still want to participate in the school, they can enroll. And the tuition is $9,000 for a school year with a sliding scale for siblings. And they don't discriminate based on race, color, gender, national, or ethnic origin. So I think maybe let me continue with the presentation, but yes?
There's only one school like this?
No. I forgot to bring those data. But I know that in United States, they were the first one.
But this is one school.
This is one school, and this is the first one. But after people saw their practice being successful, now I don't remember the exact number, but it's definitely more than 100 around the world. In United States, I think it was 80 or something. I need to check again. Sorry, I forgot that point. Yes, sorry.
You might be just about to talk about this, but I'm curious if there have been any formal studies that are not commissioned by the school, right? Because obviously the school commission it's different. But what's the nature of studying outcomes?
We'll get to that.
Okay.
Yes.
I didn't see. Maybe I missed that, but do the students have to be tested before they come in? No, anybody, unless you have $9,000.
And as long as they have space in the school, and they have never been full. So there is always space for newcomers.
Yes, that was my other question.
What?
What's their support for, like, if a child is autistic, or if a child has dyslexia, or if a child, like, do they have?
So
the
unless it is
capacity?
really a serious physical shortcoming that needs physical treatments by specialists, they let them be. And then the argument is lots of the dyslexia that we see in school is not actually dyslexic. Is that child at the moment is interested in something else. She doesn't want to read. If you let them be, they will start reading perfectly 2 years later. May I continue? So when I talk about this idea of, as general as I told you so far, people have different reactions. Some say, is it like Montessori schools? Well, yes and no. How do you expect me to answer that question? I mean, this is Sudbury, that is Montessori. There is a reason that they are called different, right? It's like saying that I want to talk to you about oranges, and somebody says, is it like lemon? Well, then it's one teacher per child. Well, actually, no. And we will get to that a bit later. But you cannot let them jump in the dangerous river to learn. Well, yes. And this is exactly what you do with adults too, because it's not a learning situation, it's a safety and danger situation, We are talking about the responsibility of their education, but not their safety. There are scientific evidence that minimal guidance does more harm than help. We will get to it later in the slides, but it is not about minimal guidance. Whenever they are asked for guidance, whenever children ask for guidance, they will get it fully. And usually the attempt is to give them the best and most efficient one. I'll talk a bit about it a bit later. But they will grow lazy and they won't do anything if you don't require them to do anything. Well, have you seen any child before going to the school who sits aside and do nothing? Usually the struggle of the parents is to, make them quiet, please. Like for 5 minutes, don't say anything, don't do anything. Like this is the case what naturally children are. They are not lazy. They do take risk. They do take calculated risk. They try everything and all things they are, interested in, and they are trying to push their abilities. So lots of time they are doing things, not because they are interested, not because they want to, but not because they are pleasant to them, but because they see that I'm not good at it. I want to overcome it. They start studying algebra, not because they need it, not because it's interesting, but actually because it's boring and because they cannot do it. So they don't want that feeling. So they want to overcome that shortcoming and they get started to learn them. It's about everything: sports, art, reading, writing, math, whatever, name it. Well, depends on children, but it can be anything. But they won't learn anything. You hear that several times in this book, and they are talking about it very nicely. And it's very difficult to answer to this question because, they have lots of anecdotal examples that, this girl learned this and that, and that boy learned that and that and that, and this graduate is such a successful adult in this and that one in that. But it doesn't seem to be convincing to people who are visiting and asking this question. So they were thinking that, okay, why we cannot answer this question? And they are going to a very nice analysis of what learning is. So when parents become satisfied with the answer to this question is when learning, by definition, has 4 pre-assumptions. One is what needs to be learned. The second, how it should be learned. The third, when it should be learned. And the fourth, with whom should it be learned. And it comes from, historically, we say that, I'm mixing several things together now. Anyway, nobody really knows what is the best thing to learn, right? Do really educators know what is the best curriculum for children? Do parents know? Do we know? That nobody really has the right answer to this question. However, the child who is growing by her or his natural development, they see, they feel that I need to do this and I need to do that and I will to learn. So the best practice is actually to do nothing, let them be. And then they will get handles on different things that come on their way. They may not learn subjects that nobody knows if they are useful or not after they get graduated, but they learn soft skills that will help them survive in their adult lives and actually flourish. We should not let the best ages of learning go to waste, not the same stuff. Kids don't know what is best for them. Well, actually, nobody knows. They need discipline. And the interesting point about the school is that although everybody does their own thing, the school goes very smoothly and orderly. It might be noisy. It might be messy here and there for a while, but it goes very smoothly and orderly. There is not a intolerable chaos in the school. And it is the aspect of the school which is very surprising to the visitors. There is a complete 2 chapters on this matter in the book. I'm not going to talk about it today. Won't they have problems when they go to real world? Well, which is more similar to the real world? An environment that you are in contact with different kind of people, with different backgrounds, different ages, different gender, doing all kind of different stuff. You have to decide on every small or big issue about your community. You need to decide about moral issues. You need to take the responsibility of what you do. You have to choose for yourself. You have to take action yourself. You have to bear the consequences of your decisions and actions. Or the environment where everything is designed for you. You are asked to be a follower. The responsibility of what you do is not on you because, we should not harm the feeling and it will be harmful for the kids and so on. Where you don't have any voice in any kind of decision making, and you have been in the school totally cut from the reality of the society out there for most of your time, and if not in the school, then at home doing your homework. It's a school for white rich families with radical political ideas. This is not the intention of the school, and the demographics of the school rejects this hypothesis. They are open to everybody. They don't discriminate. The school remains absolutely apolitical. They refuse to take part in any kind of political movements. And they are open to all. So there is absolutely no restriction.
Sorry.
Yes?
Open to all does not ensure that it's not also like
Yeah, well, I will tell you the statistics now. The last thing that I saw, it was 24% non-white people in the school. The average is 29% in United States, or at least in that area. And it's actually interesting because they lost some of their families in their community because they came there and they said, you are letting those right-wing blah, 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 blah people in the school. I don't want my kid to be here. So it was really the challenge for them, and they tried to stick to their principles that we don't discriminate. We let everybody in. So the door is open. If you don't go there, it's your problem. They cannot go and grab children from different ethical or I don't know, whatever groups and bring them to ensure they are open to all. They are open. If you want to be there, you are more than welcome.
So that's sort of interesting. I don't know if you've read about this at all, but like, if I'm remembering my school, and I did not know the politics of any of the families at my school because
Mhm.
like, I don't know, we were 8. So does it come up, right? Like, is it?
Yes,
well, this is
maybe
how every family
maybe
does it,
not
and
for
that's-
children, but among parents it comes up.
I want to go back to what you were saying about the topics that are taught or not taught or learned.
Hmm.
Let's say so. Well, generally, I would agree that maybe we don't. There is no absolute response to what curriculum should be, what it should include, what it should not. We do know some things.
What are they?
So we talk a lot about fake news. We talk a lot about disinformation. We talk a lot about critical thinking. So how do you assure that they don't decide that flat Earth theory is a wonderful thing, and this is what they should do?
This is what they are dealing with every moment in the school. And over time, they will learn. They may make occasional short-term mistakes, but because they are living with the consequences of those things, they will figure out and they will correct themselves.
What do you mean by they're living with consequences?
It means that if you, well, maybe it's not about flat earthers, but if you have a wrong judgment about something, or if you learn something, how can I make an examples here? Or let's put it this way, they are always exposed to different ideas and discussions. There are lots of discussions going on around the school all day long. And if you become interested in flat earth theory, you will start either reading on it or discussing with others and so on. And it's very rare occasion that everybody in the school believes that the earth is flat. So you are engaged in the kind of conversations that different opposing ideas are present. And you are, at the end of the day, you are free to make your own mind. Even if you become a flat earther, it's your choice. But you are exposed to opposing ideas. And
So I like the idea of, so yes, being exposed to different ideas, talking to different people, sort of learning the discussion. That sort of this, to be that sounds like the real world, in a sense. Yeah, you as a flat earther, you get exposed to discussions with different people anyway, but that doesn't seem to work.
yeah, it's the idea. It's their decision. You can have the exact same argument, because I'm not that far from my school experience in Iran. You can have exactly the same idea with the school people in Iran, saying that, but what if a child starts believing in Satanism? It's not possible. We have to stop it at any time.
Yeah, no, I think that's a false.
It's
a false comparison.
No, it's a personal choice.
So
At the end of the day, you make your own mind.
I intentionally picked flat Earth as something that I feel it is not debatable on whether it's true or not, or good. So not Satanism. Something that there is a more than overwhelming consensus that Earth is not flat. So it's not a political thing. It's not a.
But I mean, those people who believe that the Earth is flat, they have come up from the conventional school system, no? So there is not really any way of ensuring these things, right?
I was gonna make the same point.
The biggest population of flat earthers, though,
What? Sorry, I got missed.
I said the,
UK too.
the biggest
Yeah,
population
yeah.
is in
In the US.
is in the US and primarily from the Bible.
It's actually
I don't
the
know about
greatest
other
increase.
Christmas.
I mean, I don't know. Now we're
I know,
getting into
I know, because of the
that earth
community.
thing. Yes, the biggest increase
It's-
started happening in 2014, and it was like adults, like you know.
Yeah, I watched the documentary on that.
But I didn't watch that.
That's a hard.
But I think what's interesting here is, if we shift back to the educational perspective, is the language. Is it your interpretation or is it their vocabulary when you say living with the consequences? Because it's not the same thing to live with the consequences of a decision when you are 8 years old, when you're 20.
And the mistakes that you make are not the same as well. That's the point of the point. You let them start with the smaller ones so that they don't make the bigger ones.
I think if you want to test jumping off the cliff at the age of 8, don't know the consequences as much as you do when
Yes.
I think it's another example.
But I mean, it is the case with 28 and 58. So why don't you make that argument for adults, but you make it for children?
Because there is absolutely, this is the other point about the democratic system, the notion of the educational level and then at society. It's like there's this arbitrary thing of what age we are when we reach the majority and become a fully fledged citizen. Saying that the difference between human being and person is that a person, we're all human beings, children, human beings. Semantically, a person is somebody who is recognized as an individual. So this is when you're obviously sort of maturing. You go through the phase we know there's the separation process when you're during the baby stage, you know, when babies don't recognize themselves yet as an individual. This is an ongoing learning process at the earlier ages. And then 18 or 21 or whatever the age of majority is, depending on the democracy you live in, then you can, for instance, vote in national legislative general elections and so on and so forth. And of course that age is arbitrary, but then so is the democratic process, because you look at, for instance, the United Kingdom, where I come from, referenda are extremely rare occasions, and we consider that they're almost anti-democratic in the sense that when we vote for elected council and they represent us for a particular mandate. In France, referenda are a little bit more considered to be part of the democratic process, and in Switzerland, of course, it is a fully fledged process for democracy.
Because we're not letting her.
So but this is yes, you're right.
This seems to be a different conversation. If I may, I have the impression that the discomfort that we're feeling because we were excluded in the living room is perhaps related with the fact that we're arguing on a very abstract level of about how this school works. So we don't have, so for example, would the teacher allow a child to jump off a cliff because that's her way of exploring and this should be valid? But I don't think that that's what the school is doing. I have the impression, but we're still at a very abstract level, so it's difficult to make these. I think we're making inferences where we shouldn't yet make them. So how do they guide kids in their exploration and set the boundaries and so on? Because it's yet not yet clear. I think.
They
I don't know if
don't.
we're going to talk about this, but
They don't guide. They don't guide.
But
They are there to be supportive
how do they
whenever
support
they
it?
are asked to. They don't guide.
This is still too abstract, but maybe you should go on.
Yeah, I can give you an example, which is in the book as well. There were a group of 6-year-old kids who were playing on the cliffs, on the rocks. And then one of them said that, oh, let's make let's play like this, and we jump on the stones. And then there was one kid, it was his first day in the school, not that familiar with how it works. And he didn't want to be left alone. He didn't want other people to think that he's a chicken or he's, how do you call it? I forgot the English word. Yeah, whatever. So he accepted to play, although he didn't feel comfortable to do that. And then he falls. and he injures herself. And he says that it's your fault because you suggested we play this game. And the person who has suggested the group to play that game says that no, it's your own responsibility. It's your fault. It's not my fault. You are, I call you up. And call you up means to make a complaint against you and take you to the judicial community of the school so that we solve the complaint. So the kid, the new kid, goes to the staff and crying, saying that, he says that he wants to call me up, and I am actually the person who is complaining. And then the woman is trying to understand what's happening there. Okay. Then there is another 6-year-old kid. This girl comes sitting next to this boy to comfort him in her own way. And he asked him, did you also cry the first time that you were called up for the judicial system? And he said, yes, all of us do. But it's not that bad. So he's a bit calmer. Then he explains what happened completely. And then they are sitting underneath a tree. And there is a boy on top of the tree who overhears the conversation. So this adult, the staff, tries to, okay, well, it was your responsibility. You were not obliged to play with them. You did play. You are injured. There's nothing to complain about. But she doesn't want to put it this way because she doesn't want to hurt the kid. So the guy, the 13-year-old boy who is on the tree, says that, you know what, you didn't need to accept. You don't need to do anything you don't want to in this school. There is no judgment. Nobody will think that you are a chicken. And when people tease you, it's actually a compliment. They think that you are wise enough or strong enough to do that. And then he says, what is compliment? And jumps out, goes up the tree, and they start talking together and so on. And then that little girl comes again, goes up the tree, and swings on the bench and jumps down. And then this little boy starts doing the same, singing on the branch. And people told him that, don't jump if you're not ready, please. He goes back on the branch. He chooses a lower branch, jumps down from that, and then goes up and jumps from the new branch, the higher branch. This is a typical, very concrete example of what happens. Children don't need to have an adult supervising them along the school because they are totally trusted that they can overcome the challenges they take.
There were no adults in what you're describing?
When they were jumping on the cliffs, there was no adult supervising.
Could have happened in a playground. Maybe the adults wouldn't have dealt it in the same way. Maybe the kids, I'm sure the kid learned some variable lessons. See that? But that's a different example from something that more.
Yes, it was more about the Raphael example, not Dulles.
Okay, I'll let you continue.
Yes, Roy.
How is this organized? It's like, for example, coming from education system, you change this in school.
You change what?
You bring this children learn their own choices and their own experiences amongst themselves. But if this is the next step is getting a job, doing things which it has hierarchies, it has this whole thing of testing them on cognitive competencies rather than on the soft skills or the motive or like the other skills, critical inquiry and things like that. So I understand rational operative controls chain is actually buying into this path, but this is it. I don't know how does it translate to economies or in places which are highly competitive, where I studied calculus because it was going to be in the competitive exam. It's going to give me this model seat and this then
we probably will get to it a bit later, but I can tell you a bit now. regarding learning and proficiency, what children learn in the school, or the characteristic that they develop during their years in Sudbury Valley, is that they are always eager and ready to learn. First of all. Second, they learn very well how to learn what they need to learn. And they are also very good at figuring out to set the goals for themselves and figuring out what are the requirements to achieve that goal. So if I want to go and work in Google, okay, what are the requirements of working in Google? Well, I have to have these technical skills. I have to have these scientific skills. I have to have these personal skills. Well, maybe I can convince them without a degree. Good for me. Well, they are very strict on having a diploma, so I have to get that diploma. Okay, what do I do to get that diploma? And then I prepare myself for that. So in this process, they actually end up doing some things that they don't like. But they know what they are doing. And because they know why they are doing this, they understand this is how the society works. So if I really want to get that diploma so that I can get that job, well, I have to go through this. And because they have a reason to do that, it's not that difficult. They get over it. Exactly. And it doesn't mean that they don't get instruction. For some things, it really depends on the kid. So some of them, they just pick up a book and go for themselves, and they become very proficient in physics or mathematics or music or whatever. Some people prefer to watch. Some people prefer to do, and some people want classes. They want somebody to come and teach to them. And if they are asked for that, they are provided with that. So it is the self-directedness comes from the fact that the initiative is by the children about what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and with whom to do it. As long as they are the people who are deciding for this, although it might be a very restricted, structured class, it is still self-directed. And then they say that the graduates of these kind of schools, or especially the Sudbury, are very individualistic. I find it very unrealistic to live in such a community and be individualistic. You don't survive. You have to be careful about other people. You have to communicate. You have to maintain the community, the school, the environment. You have to debate. You have to engage in conversations. You have to be caring and helpful and responsible and all of these things. I tried to find a very neat text in the book that explains this. I couldn't find. Maybe there is. My search was not that great. But when you read about the whole story and the context, it just cannot happen. They have a very strong self of individual. They truly know themselves and what they want and what are their strengths and weaknesses. But it doesn't mean that they are individualistic. So how much time do I have? 10 minutes? So there is a lot to talk, but maybe I wrap up quickly here. So they talk about, let's see, why do we go to school? There are intellectual bases. Of course, we go to school to learn. And over time, it has become that, okay, we go to school to learn. So learning is actually changed to getting education has become equal to learn, and to learn has become equal to being taught, which is not necessarily the case. Learning is a process that you do, not a process that is done to you. And to learn, one must be left alone and given time. Yes?
There is many, I think I'm going a bit on Murilo's point, there is many implicit things. In fact, as a teacher or as a learner supporter, there is much to do in order to
leave someone alone and give them the time.
But actually, the very idea of teacher comes from this belief that to learn is to be taught.
No, I'm saying that if you believe that to learn, it's a process that you do by yourself, you need to be in an ecosystem that allows you.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, and this ecosystem has to be put at disposal of the learner.
Yes.
No? Has to be created and given to the learner.
Yes.
There is a lot of things to be done in order to create such an ecosystem and to provide it.
This is actually what Sudbury Valley School did.
Yeah. So it is. So I think that what is hidden, it is at some point you said that there is no intervention that is done, but in fact there is a lot of intervention to be done to create such an ecosystem and to provide such ecosystem. You have to create.
No,
website.
we are.
You have to.
We are
buy
talking
a
about
video.
two different things. Running the school is different than the education of the kid.
Yeah.
And that chapter, which is about the order of the school and how the school runs, explains exactly which system needs to be put in place so that this environment is provided for children to be free and given time to do that. And they are doing it in a very systematic, well-defined way. But they don't interrupt the child who is doing something for her or his own education to bring them to do whatever they think is right to do. They are two different things.
A little bit on that again, in the same direction, and to say there is so much knowledge out there in so many different formats.
Yes.
That it's impossible for it all to be equally available.
Yes.
So by curating the resources available to the kids, by creating the ecosystem, I think, of what's accessible to them, you are curating a curriculum. You're a little bit further away, but
How do you define a curriculum?
is there internet or is there not internet? What kind of textbooks are available? What are their learning resources that are available to them?
But here comes the distinction. This is what is available for all the human beings on the earth, or in that city, or in that, there is no distinction between the available sources for the kid and its parents and the staff of the school and children in the other schools when it comes to what is available on the internet, right? So I don't see the point. And that's the point of it, because we are in an age, we have enormous access to the sources of knowledge. So who is going to choose what is the best one to be accessible for children? So you just let them do, and
Let me ask a concrete question.
okay.
Are there textbooks available?
Yes, of course, they have
Who
libraries.
chooses the textbooks?
Anybody. So some of them come, people think that, I saw that book, which is interesting, I put it in the shelf. Some people have interesting books in their library. They think it will be helpful for the children. They bring it. Sometimes they decide I want to have this book. They buy it. Any kind of way. The same way that it happens in the home.
Yeah, but that creates.
I understand. And that's why every two Sudbury schools are really different, because people who are there are different and the resources that is feeding the school are different. What is similar is the principles and the philosophy behind it. But what they are exposed to, of course, is different. Of course, my household is different than yours.
Yeah.
Of course, our cities are different.
Would you agree that creates a type of a curriculum?
You can call it if you want to.
Sorry, I'll let you.
Yeah. So to learn is the first reason we go to school. The second one is because we want to get a good job. But to get a good job, one needs to stretch their minds to handle, mold, shape, organize, play with new materials, old materials, new ideas, old ideas, new facts, old facts, and all these other soft skills. And the daily activities which happen in the school are actually a great help to develop these kind of necessary skills. And the record of the successful graduates in a large variety of professions talks to the point. Among the graduates, you have people who went to university, they are full professors now. You find people who are doing different kind of technical jobs, engineering, art, entrepreneurship, name it. They have all kind of people in their graduate community, and all of them are successful in their life.
So are
Success with the definition of themselves.
are you going to talk more about evaluation?
Yes. I hope I have time.
Skip to that.
Yeah, can we skip to that?
Yes. Okay. What happened?
So far, we've seen the book, which was written by the people at the website, which clearly is like biased because it's advertisement for the system. I would like to see an independent evaluation of impact. Because all of us need to bring that down.
I understand what you're saying. So Peter Gray is an evolutionary psychologist. He is not as independent as you wish to be, but at some point they were really miserable with their son, who couldn't tolerate any kind of school, and they figured out Sudbury Valley and said, well, it's interesting, but does it really work? And he was trying to find any kind of research being done on the topic. No, there was nothing there. He couldn't convince anybody to do that, so he said, okay, I will do that myself. And he, from that point on, he spends all his journey studying how children learn and what is the role of play in children and so on. He also has some surveys on the graduates of the schools or unschooling families. This one is from unschooling families. So some of them might have gone to these kind of schools. He has a new, it has been done in 2011. There is a new one on the Hudson Sudbury School. I haven't read that paper yet, but I can send it to you.
Can I just clarify? This is not about the school you were just talking about.
Not directly. So these are not the graduates of that school. These are the unschooled people, the people who haven't gone to school. I would say there are differences, because when you are in your home, making your own community around it is, to my eyes, is different than when you are in the community of the Sudbury School. But there are, what is my concern in this slide is that they don't have high school diploma, and they don't have followed the regular curriculum of the schools, or at least after the grade 6. Yes. So that's the self-evaluation thing, actually, because they ask people, what is your financial status at the moment? And it's an open-ended question. And people may say that, well, I'm not rich, but I'm living comfortably, and I prefer to live like that and enjoy my life rather than being a rich person who doesn't like his job, for example. And some of them say that, yes, I'm very well financially.
But given the focus on Sudbury Valley School,
Yeah.
do you have evaluation about Sudbury?
Not in these slides, but I can send you the paper.
It feels like we're.
Yes, I agree. I should have brought the results of that paper, but I didn't have that. So, I can share that later.
But so going back to this table you showed, they also did not compare it at all to people that went to traditional school start to finish, right?
No.
So that's a pretty big oversight, isn't it? Like you want to
Well, the
compare
point is that the
unschooling
critics
traditional
is that,
schoolers and not
well,
different degrees of unschooling.
I mean, how do you want to make that comparison?
Whether you have some formal higher education, you can definitely compare. Whether has someone worked on a BA or higher, like all of these things, why couldn't you compare it to people that went to a traditional school if they really wanted?
So this the reason the question of this study was that will children be successful if they are not given that 12 K to 12 education? This was to answer that question. It was not to compare them with people who are at school. It was that where are they now in their school?
That's a super lame excuse to not compare it to what is the standard. Like, are you successful? Like, but if you decide whether your children should be unschooled or go to school, you want to compare it to going to school or not going to school. You don't want to see, are they self-reportingly doing okay afterwards? So, I mean,
So that was not really the question we were asking. We were asking, do children that go to this particular
Can you see the
school,
table?
how
Yeah.
they compare on
yeah, I mean, because we have no data on this in any case right now. So we can only see for unschoolers and unschoolers, whatever. But you have no comparison to how do people that go to school answer these questions.
But I also don't have a lot of interest in 24 people. Because they're very small.
Yeah, that's another problem. But I mean,
It's 24 plus 27 plus 24. And then the way that this study is done is voluntarily. So Peter Gray asked a question on his website and saying that I'm doing this study. Whoever wants to participate, please
That's
fill
not
up.
preliminary now. You haven't
Yes,
finished the-
yes, it is published.
Does it have time on people to count that? Because if you
We don't know what we're.
The background is there. There were no schooling at all.
If you criteria is initially and it doesn't say anything.
Those data are available in the paper. I can share.
Yeah, then
I think it's yes, Rafa.
just a couple of the numbers are smaller because the school sizes, Sudbury schools range pupils to 80 pupils per school.
The Sudbury.
Yes.
Yeah, but they opened in 68.
Yeah, so there's 50 years worth of, but I'm not.
Well, I
Right.
just think like if we only have a few minutes to wrap up, what exactly is the direction you want to go? Because now we changed completely the focus because this is not.
Yeah, I should have brought the analysis of the school of the Sudbury Valley graduates.
I think why I was banging on about democracy so much is because what's the common point between all Sudbury schools is that they are based on the notion of being democratic institutions. And they're the foundations of, if I'm not mistaken, they're the foundations of the ecosystem. And they're the ecosystem, the Sudbury Schools Ecosystems Foundation. And there is an external stimulus, which is the code of rules that govern the democratic process for that particular Sudbury school. And you're talking about the school meeting, which is held, I think, every week in Sudbury schools. Everybody has one vote on absolutely everything. But the question I had then is, because there's one area, there's a grey area that I'm not familiar with, is whether they actually vote on questions of education, because I know they vote on questions of infrastructure, codes of conduct, and then they have a judicial committee, just in case anybody oversteps the codes of conduct, etc. It's the question comes back. But the grey area is the education. Do they actually do? Does everybody, including the students, pupils, vote on questions of education? Do they construct a sense of curriculum?
Can you give me an example of a question in education?
We buy this book, which is creation for kids who want to learn about biology.
We ran this
Yeah, they are. They are. If it is something that you can, it affects the school. It affects. If it is a decision to make, yes, they bring it to the school meeting. So if they want to, for example, they want to make a music group and they need instruments and they need a room to practice in and they need, I don't know, maybe an instructor. they will bring it as a project to the school meeting and say, this is what we want to do, and they have to defend their proposal. And if the community is agreed, is convinced that it is a good thing to do in the school, then there will be a line of budget dedicated to this project. There will be a room designed for them. There will be the instrument being bought and so on. So yes.
My question was going to be the other question. Are there examples of school meetings that actually attack the essence of democracy? Because we were talking about discomfort earlier, the feeling of discomfort. The feeling of discomfort I have is that it reminds me of Lord of the Flies.
But it's not, right?
But it's not. No, it's just that.
Because there are lots of constraints put in place.
Because there is staff. They're not considered teachers, but they're facilitators. I think the agreed term is facilitators.
They support. They are a resource in the school. Whenever they are needed, they will be used.
Staff, you know, 'cause they're
What,
and of course, yeah,
so what is the professional background of the educators or facilitators, or
Can be anything.
including former teachers
Yes.
from other schools?
Yes.
Right? And
Yes.
this person could become the go-to person for questions about.
Well, actually, usually those former school teachers are there because they are convinced that the other education system doesn't work. So
Sorry?
the formal teachers of the conventional schools are usually there because they are convinced that the other educational system doesn't work. So if they are asked to teach something, they will teach, but they are not there to teach.
They're not there to force children to sit on a chair for 45 minutes and listen.
Or
to
even design a fun workshop for them to learn mathematics or whatever. But if they are asked to, they will provide it.
So there is a couple of results in educational psychology that I have the impression can be a bit in contrast with this philosophy of how to learn.
Mm-hmm.
So the first is the importance of interaction with others.
Mhm.
That if you are in a learning task in which you are invited to interact with others in a constructive manner, you will get a deeper learning, or you increases your capacity to memorize the content or the topic or even the competency that is. And in the how to learn slide that you presented, you were talking about you learn alone.
No, not at all. I
Wait.
emphasize a lot that there are lots of conversations going on, and there are lots of activities among different children of different ages with different
but it
abilities
could-
going on.
It could also perfectly happen that someone is alone.
Yes, if it is them to decide if they want to engage or they want to be alone.
Yeah, the second is about
But it is really, I don't think it is possible that the person decides to be alone all the time of the time, unless in one exception, it is the people who are, how do you call it? They have a huge amount of harm from their school experience. So they are totally broken. They come to this school, and sometimes they sit alone in a corner for 2 years before they find themselves and get involved in the activities. And they are given that time to heal, basically. And they believe that that time is needed. So you just need you keep having your trustful, caring environment, but you let that person to go through the process that he needs to, and then they will come.
the second it is about when you were saying the kids. You were saying people say that kids don't know what they want, and you said, well, in fact, we don't know. The kids don't know what they want. But there is this study in which it is about. There is a lot of problems when trying to evaluate the learning ecosystems based on satisfaction, because people, so there is this study in which they compared the active learning versus passive learning. And in active learning, people learn. So this is in a university level for physics courses. In active learning, people learn much more than in passive learning, but students were more satisfied with the passive learning task than the active learning one. Saying at the end of the course, they asked, would you like to continue having courses like this? And people were more likely to say yes for the passive learning than the active learning course. So it means that there is some ways of organizing the learning ecosystem that I would say optimizes. I don't know, Murillo doesn't like this term, but it doesn't matter. Optimizes learning, but it's not perfectly aligned with the satisfaction of people.
So you are talking in a context where people who are taking the course are not deciding about the context.
They went into physics university to learn about physics.
Yes, but still, still it's different. When I study education, my personal example, when I study education, I'm interested in math, and I'm interested in education. When I'm interested in education, I grab anything that I want, a little bit from here, a little bit from there, talking to these people. When I go to university to study mathematics, I'm given the course and the content and the whole design of the course is decided externally. I don't have any saying on that. I cannot say no, thank you. I have to pass that course, that exam. So I get that you are talking about higher education. So we are talking about K to 12 education. So there is already a bit of difference. I can talk about it here, actually. So they are talking about 3 levels of learning. One is curious probing, that people just get into, they just pump up in different things and experiences, and they become interested and they want to play with it a little bit, and they leave it and they go to something else. Okay, what happens is that they are gathering a huge resource of small pieces of information which are not deep, they are superficial, and you don't know when and in what context they may come to be useful later on in their life, or they may not. So what happens if you are, for example, in a progressive school, a very good progressive teacher will come and say, you are interested in stones. I have a very good book on geology. Let's go do that. And they want to make the whole curriculum about geology, which is personally and individually designed for that kid. But this is not what the kid wants. They don't want to follow up on those probes. It was just a short-term superficial thing. And then if you continue doing that, they stop probing, or they do it hiddenly because they don't want to go through the follow-up courses that you are designing for them. The second one is the entertainment style. So whenever they have fun, they learn something on their way. It's a byproduct of having fun. Whenever you play, whenever you watch something, whenever you read some book for pleasure, you learn something as a byproduct of it. You might be aware or unaware of it, but that's a byproduct. That's not the main reason of the entertainment learning. The main reason or the main aim is to have fun. And then the third one is learning for the sake of mastering something. So this is apparently something that we would like to do in school, but I tell you a little bit later why this is not the case. So it is completely the opposite of the curious probing. It is focus. You really become interested in something and you want to understand everything around it. You want to zoom in and you want to learn anything about the topic now. And once you are in that state, It is unstoppable. So nobody can come and say, hey, you spent too much time on it today. Do you want to spend some time on another activity as well? No, you want to do this now. Or it's late at night. You want to sleep and come back and do it tomorrow. No, you are so involved in that activity that you forget about all the other needs unless they become really exhaustive. And then you may go and eat something or sleep. But you are so focused on your task, right? And then there is no turning this drive to learn on or off. We cannot say, oh, it's very interesting that you are interested in that topic. Come every morning from 9 to 10:30 and then we will study it together. Or I don't know. You cannot time it. You cannot turn it, okay, from this time to this time we learn, and from that time to that time we don't learn it. And it brings with itself its own evaluation. It is inherently self-evaluated kind of learning, because it doesn't matter what others think about your ability in that task. As long as you're not satisfied with what you have got, as long as you didn't get what you were looking for, you won't stop. No matter if the whole universe tell you that you are perfect on that, there is still something that you want to do or you want to know and you haven't done that yet, you won't stop. And it doesn't matter if everybody in the world say that it's not enough, you have to work more on it. If you think you have reached your level of satisfaction and you learned whatever you want to learn, you will stop because you achieved the goal that you wanted to achieve. So going back to courses cannot do this because definitely they are designed to be followed over a course of time and on certain periods of time and on certain type of topics and so on. But they are very similar to the entertainment style, because the same way that the series, for example, or TV shows, they give you bite by bite so that you go back and show them again, to watch them again and again next week and next week and next week. Courses do the same. So people make, what courses can actually offer is a kind of entertainment style learning. So you go there to have some fun. And by having that fun, you will learn something as well. If it is not that style, it is that focused one that is not stoppable. And then the example that they say is that, if a university professor says that I want to change my field and go be a historian, the only thing that doesn't come to the mind of anybody is that the professor will go and take a course on history 1 and a course on history 2. And after 2 years, they probably have a master degree on this. And then, after a few years, they will become a historian. This is not how a professor does that. They just go and learn, This is the same way with learning for mastering and how it is different by entertainment style. And then there is another definition of courses. It's when a scientist is coming to present their new discovery, a new theory, something that it's really fresh, and they want to get feedbacks from the people. So the presenter is benefiting from the discussion to enrich their theory, and the participants, there might be some rare cases that I am interested in the same topic and I'm doing the same topic. So this is a very excellent opportunity to discuss with the other person who has done something new in the field, and we can discuss. But the other people who are there, they are not there to learn. They are there to share the joy of going through the discussion and discovering some new ideas. And in the school, they were saying that we are very happy to welcome these kind of courses of the last type. So I feel there is something here to answer Ignacio's question, but I'm trying to figure out how to put it. one thing that I may say is that when you have the interactive design for your course, it's probably fun, but you are interrupting the personal focus of the person who is trying to figure out by themselves what to do. And when they are passive, they are given the time to, handle the question or the task in hand whenever it suits them. It might be something, I'm just hypothesizing. And again, if you look at what people, the graduates of these schools that go to university, if you look at how they approach the courses, is different than people who have been in school and then they are in university. And it's because a different mindset that they have. They are there because they want to learn that. However, the others are there because they need the diploma and they want to pass. The learning is not really the main aim of being in the course. It's a diploma. But for them, it's learning. So, and they know very well themselves how they learn better, and they will do that. I know that I didn't answer completely and properly, but I need some more time to reflect on it. But thanks for sharing. I'm over time. Sorry, I know you're hungry, but thanks for staying to the end and listening. So I have these two books with me. The Sudbury Valley School Experience, based on which I gave the presentation, and Free to Learn, which is a work by Peter Gray on how children learn through playing and how it is essential to their development. If you want to borrow them, feel free, they're available. Thank you.